not Maddie and Officer Platt hunching. I didn't know what to expect.
I'm gonna tell you that I love you 100 times a day. You'll get tired of my voice. That's how much.
Only apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you ain't apply that. Love a bone, give along, need it. I don't want no trip, baby, say like
My name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related, and I am here to put you on, okay? Are back to talk Lady in the Lake, episode 2. It has to do with the search for the marvelous. Now, y'all listen. Some stuff happened in episode 2 that I was not expecting. When I tell you that I was completely sat for this episode and can't wait until episode 3, I can't. And if you guys didn't know, we will be back to talk Lady in the Lake live. So make sure that you have your notification bell hit so that you do not miss it. But y'all, let's get right into this episode. As we open up, we see a young Maddie and a young Alan Durst. In episode 1, we found out that they had a little love affair in high school where he broke her heart, okay? But back in high school days, again, they're dating. He's enamored of her. She's enamored of him. But apparently she just gave the coot nanny away too early, okay? Because he stood her up for prom. But in this scene, we're finding out that his mom is a very popular artist, a surrealist artist back in those days. And he has gotten Maddie an interview because Maddie is in her journalistic era of the conversation. And she's asking the mom, what do you believe surrealism is? And she's like, well, what do you believe? And she's like, well, the book says XYZ. And she's like, it has to do with the search for the marvelous. And then she gets into, do you love my son? He's acting a little funny. And I don't know, I need to know what your intentions are. But just in that moment, she gets a phone call, steps away, and we see Mr. Durst, honey. And Mr. Durst will always be the doctor from that show that used to come on USA. I'll put a picture of it here so you see what I'm talking about. But he'll always be him. But he's a little sus. I don't know how I felt about him. And hopefully the story unfolds and we get made way more tea about what was going on back in the high school days, okay? And so present day, everyone's kind of asked Joe's narration again. And basically she's asking the question to Maddie, who was Tessie to you? Who was she to you? You wanted to tell everyone's story, Maddie, but your own, baby. Maddie don't want to approach her truth. And I think we'll get more into that as the season develops. And so as we're going through, and we're starting to see some commonalities, some common themes. The fact that no one thinks Maddie's a Jew. They say it's because she has a nice nose, whatever that means. And I know what they used to say as far as stereotypical, but come on, guys. But that's a thing back then. I didn't know, Maddie. I didn't know. Because basically now, because Maddie is the one that found the body, there's a lot of conjecture going around about why she was there. Was Judith her lesbian lover? And I told y'all Judith was acting like she wanted Maddie's draws. I told y'all that. But eventually they get released for questionings, and basically the detective warns her and basically says, listen, because you were here, the cops are going to, or not the cops, but the reporters are going to want an interview. Make sure that you avoid that because the investigation is still open. Okay. And now Platt is the black officer, and he's watching her the whole time in the station, which I'm like, Platt, what is up with you? Platt, y'all, is Daniel from Insecure, FYI. I'm gonna put a picture here so you can see it. And officers are dropping her off at home, and they're like, you live here? And she's like, yeah, I live here. And he said, it's a long way to fall. Now we go back to Cleo in her world, right? And we find out that Summers is corrupt. Summers has been taking payoffs from Mr. Gordon for years, apparently. And Cleo didn't know and finds that out. And, it's hard when your idols fall, right? But they have to. Maddie, you left your child. Maddie was like, F them kids, honey. When she ran out, she left her son. Her son is a little bit diabolical. But again, it's like, I don't know, when people raise these terrible children, why they're surprised that the children are terrible when that's what you did. You know what I mean? So now we are at Tessie's funeral. Maddie's mom then came to the house, and they're kind of, figuring out. The husband is like, are you coming back? You just left your child. She's like, I didn't leave my child. I left you. But Maddie, you did. You left both of them. When they get to the cemetery, we see that it's vandalized, with slurs and all that. And then we unexpectedly, I thought was interesting. The mama who owns the fish shop, was at the funeral. And I think that's interesting. Okay. Meanwhile, back at her house, we see her son get in a tub, fill it with fish, put on a gas mask, and sit in it. Now, y'all got to put it in the comments and tell me what that means, because it was given weird kink and fetish, and I don't know nothing about that life. It was giving strange. But honey, the mama come home and beat him down like a fraction. Like, she whooped him. Okay, she did. And it's like, I told you, if you did it again, you'll have to get out. And he's crying, and I'm like, is the boy high? Does he have mental deficits? Because in the first episode, he didn't seem like he was off in any way. Y'all, I don't know. Again, these are questions that need answers, that hopefully we will get answers to eventually. So now we see Cleo, and basically she's reciting words her mother told her. She said, to get a good job, you need to look like you didn't have a care in the world or didn't need one, right? And Cleo's tipping and dipping. Okay, she has her little flask on her, and she is on the way to meet with Summers because, of course, she wants a job. I think Cleo's motivation, of course, first and foremost, is to take care of her family, but then now she really wants to focus on it being legitimate. And I think her seeing Summers wanting to do good in the community, wanting to do things for children, it's inspiring her that she could have a better way of life. She doesn't have to have these 4 jobs. She doesn't have to work kind of in the underbelly of Black Baltimore anymore. And so, she gets there and basically she's like, you can't work for me. You can't work for me. Nobody leaves Mr. Gordon. And she's like, well, you did. And Summers is like, well, if you think you know what you know that I never worked for him, okay? And why it's so hard for me now to get donors, or why I need donors so badly now. And she says to her, well, if I worked for you, Mrs. Summers, I wouldn't have to work for him. And then this is the part that got me, because I've seen this over and over and over, and I hate this idea that you have to wait your turn. I suffered and went through it, and so now you do too. When I think what a lot of our forebears and ancestors were about was, I'm going through this so that it's easier for you when you come there. You know what I mean? This whole wait your turn, that really PMO'd. Okay, it really, yeah, it ticked me off, if I can be honest with you. And so Cleo was ticked off too, honey. Cleo mad too, because now we're filming this spot for the campaign. And so Cleo's doing the interview, and she's like, I am the department store mannequin, the barmaid, the bookkeeper, the charity case. I got 2 kids, and I'm trying to hold on to my dignity, or I can provide, but I can't do both. Like, I got to choose one or the other. And she pauses and just sits looking at Summers, and Summers is looking at her, and they looking at each other. And then the girl tries to get Cleo off the stage, and Cleo like, I'm not going, girl. I thought it was going to be a fight. Do you hear me? A fight. But Cleo's pissed, and I would be too. And so now she's in her villain era completely. She goes back to Mr. Gordon and is like, whatever you need. I need to be down because I need to feed these kids. She doesn't say this, but she's like, my plan didn't work with Summer, so now I got to be all the way in because I don't want my kids involved. And it's just as she leaves the meeting where he's like, okay, maybe I'll give you a chance, but I got to know I can trust you. She sees her oldest son there with the dream book. Now, I never knew what a dream book was, y'all, until this show. And basically the dream book was how you interpret your dreams to get numbers that you can bet, like in the lottery, which was kind of like the number system back in the day. And so she beats him down in front of everybody, honey. But, remember to bring Slappy for the set tonight. Okay. Now, this episode, like, as it relates to how it was shot, was probably the most beautiful that we've seen so far. At some points, it almost felt like an art house piece. Like, so gorgeous. Like, the scene in the club later that night, and we'll get to it, was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. So, so basically Gordon is like, okay, if you can prove yourself, I'll give you more, Now Maddie didn't come up with an idea. She'd been going around town trying to sell her car to get some money to pay this rent, okay? Because she's on her own now. She got to figure it out. Well, back in those days, she couldn't sell without her husband's signature. She went to 3, 4, 5 car dealerships. They were not giving it. So she comes up with this idea that she's going to commit insurance fraud. Okay. She is going to say that the people broke into her apartment because now she moved into this black neighborhood. Dangerous. Okay. we can talk about that in another video. But she calls the police and says that there was a break-in. You know, she can't find her ring. And Platt is the investigating officer, because this is his area, of course. And he knows the game. He like, girl, it could be forever, you know, before we get the information you need to be able to file your insurance claim, and you'll have to wait and all this stuff. And then he just happens to drop the information that, you know, you and Maddie, you and Judith were suspects in the case, you know, but now they're arresting the guy at the fish store, you know, so we're not arresting him, but, you know, that's our other lead now. That's the only reason you guys are not suspects anymore. And I'm like, okay, girl. The reporter comes up to see Maddie, and she gives him a tip based on what Platt told her. Meanwhile, it's Cuban salsa night at the club, and again, just beautifully shot. The dancing, the music, it gives all the things. And Reggie is doing dirt, honey, passing envelopes, doing the absolute most. Judith and Maddie are in the apartment getting high on the ganja, and baby, the fish shop keep is in a delusion. He got his mama tied up. The people come to arrest him in a standoff, and it is a mess. Do you hear me? He got the gas mask on, dancing with the broom, with the mop. And I said, is he on drugs? Is he mentally ill? I have all of the questions, okay? And the mama is mamaing because, you know, don't hurt him, don't hurt him, don't hurt him, but she's not telling us why. Later on, we discover that she tells that there was a black guy with a black eye at the fish shop. And so we'll see where that goes later on in the episode. And so now, like I said, Reggie's passing out envelopes and talks to one of the dirty cops, you know, because he's giving him the payoff for Mr. Gordon, because apparently the captain is on the payroll as well, and tells him that, you know, the shopkeep's mom said that there was a black guy with a black eye in the fish shop that day, and says, you know, you need to lay low until that eye heals. And so now he can't do his last money run. And so he passes that off to Cleo. And she's like, did this come from Mr. Gordon? And he said, I speak for Mr. Gordon. And I'm like, you low down, Reggie. Of everybody else there, you couldn't have sent nobody else. You had to send a woman with a family and kids. Like, Reggie, low down. I don't care what nobody say. I just don't. And so now we see Judith and Maddie again, and Maddie's like, ask your daddy if you can go down on this rent. It's too high. And she says, only if you smoke with me. Again, I think Judith want them draws. Okay. While they're doing that, Platt comes over when he gets the tea that the little boy has been arrested. Not the little boy, but the shopkeep owner has been arrested. And next thing I know, they in there hunching, doggy style. They getting it in. And I'm like, where did this come from? But she wanted him. He wanted her. I guess it was there. Meanwhile, Slappy is on stage at the club. And yeah, his set is inappropriate. His set is inappropriate. That's all I can say. And so now that Cleo has the envelope, she's got to make this run. And she thinks she's just dropping off an envelope. Apparently, that's not what it was. It was to take a hit out on Summers. And they make her drive. So she's driving these men to the hit that they botch up, apparently. And as the episode ends, Cleo is running for her life down the street. What's going to happen, y'all? What's going to happen? You guys let me know in the comments what you thought of episode 2. Like I said, I was sad. I was enthralled. I need to know answers. I need to know the background. I want to know who Maddie really is. She's got so many secrets. And like Cleo said in the beginning, you want to tell everybody else's story but your own. Everybody else's story, but won't tell your own truth. We need to get to that truth. If you guys are still here, thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video.